A band writes a joke about getting famous enough to land on the cover of Rolling Stone. Then the joke comes true. But when the magazine finally gives them the cover in March 1973, they do not get the glorious rock star photo they dreamed about. They get drawn as a cartoon. The caption calls them, "What's their names make the cover?" That was the curse hiding inside the punchline. They had a singer with an eye patch so famous that people thought he was the whole band. They had another singer whose voice carried many of the hits people actually remembered. They had Shel Silverstein, the children's author and twisted songwriter, giving them songs that sounded funny until the pain underneath started bleeding through. Sylvia's mother first flopped, then became a million seller.
Sylvia's mother says Sylvia's packing.
Only 16 brought them back from the edge.
He was only 16, only 16.
When You're in Love with a Beautiful Woman took them to #1 in Britain.
You're in love with a beautiful woman.
The chart numbers were real, the magazine cover was real, the eye patch was real. So was the split between the image people bought and the band living behind it. And by the time the smoother love songs made them even bigger, the strange little medicine show that started the whole thing was already disappearing. This is Dr. Hook's real story, and the ending turns on one uncomfortable question. What happens when the joke works too well? Chapter 1. The eye patch, the bar band, and the joke that became a name before the hit records, before the soft rock radio years, before people confused the face of the band with the voice of the band. There was Union City, New Jersey, in 1968. That was where Dr. Hook and the Medicine Show started taking shape. This was not some polished label project. The group came out of bars, road work, and mismatched lives. Dennis LeCourrier was a young singer from Jersey City, born in 1949, and raised mostly by his maternal grandparents after his parents did not really build a home together. Music arrived early for him, and so did late nights. As a teenager, he was already slipping into bars, playing until the small hours, and learning what a room sounded like when people were drinking, talking, laughing, and not always listening. Then there was Ray Sawyer. Ray was Alabama-born, older than Dennis, and impossible to miss. In 1967, a serious car accident cost him an eye. The eye patch he wore afterward became the thing people remembered before they remembered anything else. It gave him mystery, it gave him danger, and it gave the band a name. George Cummings, the guitarist from Meridian, Mississippi, helped shape that name around the obvious joke. Ray's eye patch called back to Captain Hook, and the rest of the group became the medicine show around him. Funny, catchy, and a little ridiculous, the name sounded like trouble rolling into town with a cheap amplifier and a dirty joke. But that joke had teeth. From the start, the name pulled attention toward Ray. He looked like the front man, even when the real story was more complicated. Dennis had the voice that would carry many of the band's biggest records, but Ray had the image. And in rock and roll, image can outrun truth. The early lineup also included Billy Francis, the keyboard player who had served in Vietnam, and drummer Popeye Phillips, who was soon replaced by Jay David. These were not boys carefully groomed for stardom. They were working musicians trying to survive whatever room happened to be in front of them. At first, the work was not glamorous. They played rough bars and leaned into country-flavored material because that was what kept them employed. No one watching them then would have guessed that this strange, funny, half-wild bar band would end up tied to a famous author, a Dustin Hoffman film, and one of the most perfect fame jokes in rock history. But the mask was already on, and once the mask works, it becomes hard to take off. Chapter 2. Shel Silverstein walks in, and the weirdness starts paying. The break came through a door that barely sounded real. In early 1970, producer and manager Ron Halfkine was working as music director for the film Who is Harry Kellerman, and Why Is He Saying Those Terrible Things About Me? The film starred Dustin Hoffman, and Halfkine needed a band to perform songs written by Shel Silverstein. That name matters. To some people, Shel Silverstein meant children's books. To others, he meant cartoons, poems, strange stories, and songs that could make you laugh before they made you uncomfortable. Silverstein had a gift for making something sound silly on the surface, then letting sadness creep in through the side door. That was exactly the kind of writer Dr. Hook and the Medicine Show needed, even if nobody knew it yet. Halfkine heard the band's demos, and locked onto Dennis Locorrier's voice. There was grit in it, but also humor, ache, and a strange kind of innocence. Dennis could sell a joke without flattening the pain underneath it. Soon, the band ended up in the film performing The Last Morning and Bunky and Lucille, and that exposure led to a deal with CBS Records in 1971. Just like that, a rough New Jersey bar band had a record contract. Their debut album, Dr. Hook, arrived in 1971, with Shel Silverstein writing the material. That detail matters because early Dr. Hook was not just a band playing songs, it was a band wearing Silverstein's crooked imagination like a second skin. The breakthrough came with Sylvia's mother. On paper, the setup sounds almost too simple. A man calls the woman he loves, but her mother answers and keeps saying Sylvia is leaving. In another writer's hands, that could have turned into cheap melodrama. With Silverstein, and with Dennis singing it, the song became awkward, funny, desperate, and heartbreaking all at once. At first, Sylvia's mother flopped. That could have been the end of the story right there. One oddball single, one band that almost happened, one strange little footnote attached to a film soundtrack and a famous songwriter. Instead, with more promotion, the record caught fire. In 1972, Sylvia's mother reached the US top 5, climbed to number 2 in Britain, and became the band's first million seller. Think about what that meant. Their first major hit was not a swaggering rock anthem. It was a sad phone call with a mother blocking the line. That was the magic. That was also the trap. Dr. Hook had found success through a voice that was partly theirs and partly Silverstein's. They could sound crude, tender, ridiculous, and wounded in the same breath. The more people loved that weirdness, the harder it became to tell where the band ended and the character began. And the next character would be even harder to escape. Chapter 3. The cover of Rolling Stone, or the most perfect backhanded victory in rock. By 1972, Dr. Hook had a hit. They had a record contract. They had Shel Silverstein feeding them material that sounded like nobody else on the radio, but they still wanted the thing every rock band wanted. They wanted to be taken seriously by the people who decided what serious looked like. That is what made the cover of Rolling Stone so dangerous.
The cover of the Rolling Stone. Rolling Stone. Wanna see my...
The song was a joke, yes, but not only a joke. Written by Shel Silverstein and sung by Ray Sawyer, it mocked the hunger for fame while admitting that hunger out loud. Built around a fantasy every band understood, the song said the quiet part plainly. Get your picture on the cover of Rolling Stone, and somehow the world has certified you. Dr. Hook turned that fantasy into a punchline. Then the punchline came true. In March 1973, the band actually landed on the cover of Rolling Stone. For most groups, that would have been a clean victory. Frame it, hang it, point to it forever. Proof that the long nights, bad rooms, cheap jokes, and ugly drives had finally paid off. Dr. Hook's victory came with a little knife inside it. They were not shown as glamorous rock stars. They were drawn as a caricature, and the caption did not crown them as conquering heroes. It called them, "What's their names make the cover." That line almost tells the whole story. They got the cover, but not the full respect. They got the joke paid off, but the joke still owned them. The band had become famous enough for the magazine to notice, but not famous enough for the magazine to stop laughing. To be fair, Dr. Hook had helped build that problem. Their whole early identity invited chaos. They were funny, filthy, and theatrical. Their concerts could slide into surreal banter and strange bits, and sometimes they even impersonated their own opening acts. They were not presenting themselves as stone-faced rock gods. Still, underneath the comedy, there was real musicianship and real pain. That was the part people could miss. The album Sloppy Seconds had arrived in 1972, again filled with Shel Silverstein songs.
Oh, baby, grease your lips, grab your hat.
Then came Belly Up in 1973. Those titles sounded like a band daring people not to take them seriously.
She was dancing when I seen her in a Mexican country.
Even while the records proved they had something stranger and deeper than a novelty act. That was the cruel balance of Dr. Hook. If they acted normal, they lost what made them different. If they leaned into the joke swallowed them whole. The Rolling Stone cover should have been the moment they escaped the bar band cartoon and became undeniable. Instead, it froze the cartoon in public. The eye patch, the grin, the outrageous name. The band that sang about wanting the cover finally got it, and somehow still came away looking like outsiders at their own celebration. Fame had arrived. Respect was still on hold. Chapter 4. Bankrupt, broken, and saved by a song they did not write. After the Rolling Stone joke came true, the story should have become simple. Bigger records, bigger rooms, bigger respect. That is not what happened. Dr. Hook had attention, but attention is not the same as stability. The early spark depended heavily on Shel Silverstein's writing, Ron Halfkin's guidance, and the band's own strange chemistry. It was funny, but fragile. The same weirdness that made them stand out also made them hard to place. Were they a country rock band, a comedy act, a bar band with dirty jokes? Or were they a real hit machine hiding under a costume? The answer kept changing. By 1975, the band released an album with a title that sounded like a punchline and a warning, Bankrupt. That same year, they shortened the name from Dr. Hook and the Medicine Show to Dr. Hook. It looked cleaner, it sounded easier for radio, but it also felt like something was being cut away. The Medicine Show was already shrinking. Then came the rescue, and it did not come from one of their wildest Silverstein numbers. It came from an old Sam Cooke song. In 1976, Dr. Hook released Only 16, and suddenly the band was back in the US Top 10. After the wobble, after the fading momentum, after an album literally called Bankrupt, they had found another door. But the door led somewhere different. The comeback pushed Dr. Hook closer to smooth radio pop, where the jokes were softer, the edges were cleaner, and the songs could sit comfortably next to adult contemporary Heartbreak. A Little Bit More, also released in 1976, became one of the records that helped define this second life. In Britain, the album reached number 5 and stayed on the chart for 41 weeks. That was not a small comeback. For many bands, this would have been the dream. Survive the first wave, adapt to the times, find a new audience, keep the buses moving. Dr. Hook did all of that. They were too smart, too seasoned, and too hungry to vanish just because the first version of the act had started wearing thin. Still, survival changed the shape of the band. Early Dr. Hook had sounded like a bunch of misfits crashing into fame with a wink, a dirty laugh, and a sad song hiding in the corner. The new Dr. Hook was smoother, warmer, and easier to sell. They were not pretending to be the same band anymore, at least not completely. And that is where the story gets complicated. Because sometimes the song that saves you does not bring you back to who you were. Sometimes it teaches you how to become someone else. Chapter 5. The Face, the Voice, and the Beautiful Woman Problem. By the late 1970s, Dr. Hook had become a strange kind of success story. They were not just surviving, they were winning again. But the band's biggest problem was hiding in plain sight. Ray Sawyer was still the man many people recognized first. The eye patch, the hat, the grin, the name itself, all of it pointed toward him. He looked like the symbol. He looked like the story. If someone barely knew the band, Ray was probably the face they remembered. But Dennis LeCourrier was the voice carrying many of the songs that actually stayed with people. That split mattered more as the band's music changed. In the Silverstein years, chaos made room for everyone. A strange song, a comic setup, a rough vocal, a crooked punchline, all of it belonged inside the Medicine Show. Once Dr. Hook moved deeper into romantic radio pop, the center of gravity shifted. The voice became the selling point. The image became more complicated. You can hear that shift in Sharing the Night Together, the 1978 hit.
Sharing the night together. Yeah.
Sung by Ray and Dennis together. Warm, intimate, and built for late-night radio, it does not sound like a band begging for the cover of Rolling Stone. It sounds like a band that has learned exactly where the soft light is. Then came the biggest UK moment of all. When You're in Love with a Beautiful Woman.
You're in love with a beautiful woman. It's hard.
Sung by Dennis, reached number 1 in Britain in 1979 and stayed there for 3 weeks. In the US, it reached number 6. That is the kind of hit that rewrites a band's public memory. For listeners who found Dr. Hook in that era, This was not a strange country rock medicine show. This was polished, romantic, sly, soft rock. The hits kept reinforcing that picture. Sexy Eyes reached number 4 in the UK.
Dancing across the floor, turning, moving back and forth. They were love.
Better Love Next Time.
Next time, baby.
And the records around Pleasure and Pain and Sometimes You Win kept the band inside that smoother lane. By then, Dr. Hook had done something most bands never manage. They had become famous once as oddballs, then famous again as radio lovers. But there was a cost. The weirder Dr. Hook became harder to see. The band that had once turned fame into a joke was now living inside the kind of polished success it used to mock. The rough edges were sanded down, the comic bite softened. The songs were still good and the voices were still there, but the old medicine show madness was fading into memory. That did not mean the later hits were fake. That is too easy, and it is not fair. When You're in Love with a Beautiful Woman worked because Dennis sold it with charm and control. Sharing the Night Together worked because it understood mood. Sexy Eyes worked because Dr. Hook knew how to make pop music feel casual, as if nobody in the room was trying too hard. But the more effortless it sounded, the further it moved from the band's original wound. They had started as outsiders laughing at the machine. Now the machine had found a version of them it could sell beautifully. And for Ray Sawyer, that version did not sit comfortably forever. Chapter 6. The Medicine Show Disappears. The end of Dr. Hook did not arrive as one clean explosion. That almost would have been easier. There was no single moment where everything burned down in public. No legendary fistfight that explained the breakup. No one scene where the audience could point and say, "There, that is where the band ended." Instead, the medicine show disappeared piece by piece. George Cummings, one of the founding players, left during the period when Only 16 revived the band's commercial life. Rick Elswit, the lead guitarist who had joined in 1972, had to step away for a time after developing cancer, with Bob Willard Henke coming in while the lineup shifted again. Dr. Hook had always been a moving machine, but by the late years, the movement felt less like wild energy and more like erosion. Then came the most symbolic loss. Ray Sawyer left in the early 1980s. The exact year is messy in public sources, but the meaning is clear. The most recognizable visual symbol of Dr. Hook walked away as the band's commercial identity had already changed. The man whose eye patch helped give the group its name was no longer inside the name. Think about that for a second. A band named from Ray's image kept going after Ray left, and the voice many fans associated with the later hits, Dennis Locorriere, remained to carry the name forward. That does not make one man more important than the other. It makes the wound sharper. Dr. Hook had always been split between image and voice, joke and ache, weirdness and polish. In the end, that split became part of its structure. After the move from Capitol to Casablanca, the big hits slowed. The later records did not restore the old momentum, and after a few tours that kept the bills paid, Dr. Hook disbanded in 1985. It is a quiet ending for such a loud, strange band, but maybe that is why it stings. Dr. Hook did not crash out of history. They faded into pieces people remembered separately. Some remembered the eye patch. Some remembered Sylvia's mother. Some remembered the cover of Rolling Stone. Some remembered the smooth late-night glow of sharing the night together, or When You're in Love with a Beautiful Woman. The people behind those memories carried on, but time kept closing the circle. Billy Francis died in 2010. Ray Sawyer died in 2018. George Cummings died in 2024. Dennis Locorriere, the voice behind so much of the band's memory, died in 2026 after a long battle with kidney disease. By then, the old question had become even harder to answer. Who was Dr. Hook, really? The bar band? The comedy act? The Silverstein machine? The soft rock hitmakers? The eye patch? The voice? Maybe the answer is all of it, and maybe that is why the story still feels unfinished. So maybe the cleanest way to remember Dr. Hook is not as one band, but as two bands trapped inside the same name. One was the Crooked Little Medicine Show, built on Shel Silverstein songs, dirty jokes, sad phone calls, and a dream about getting on the cover of Rolling Stone. The other was the Smooth Hit Machine, the band behind Sharing the Night Together, Sexy Eyes, and When You're in Love with a Beautiful Woman. Both were real. That is what makes the story stranger. They got the fame they joked about. They got the hits. They got the cover. But even then, people were still asking who they were. And maybe that was the curse. The joke worked too well.